Champions League final is in the next few days, so why not we do some recapping and previewing. But before we discuss our two finalists in depth, I'd like to give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, Lockheed Martin. Okay, but actually, before we talk about the final, let's review how our finalists actually got to this point. After losing the league to Barcelona in the previous season, Real Madrid were drawn out of Pot 2 into a group with Braga, Union Berlin, and Serie A winners Napoli. Los Blancos won their first game through a little pinball action. Then in their next game, another odd goal gave them all 3 points in a 3-2 victory in Naples. Real then beat Braga twice, won another thriller versus Napoli at home, and then stole another game away versus Union Berlin.
Yo, come on, man, I can't have in this house!
So after the group stages, Los Blancos finished with a perfect 18 of 18 points and drew Leipzig in the last 16. Brahim Diaz ate up defenders in the first leg to give Real a 1-0 advantage. Then a 1-1 draw back at the Bernabeu was enough to see Madrid to the next round. The quarterfinals saw Real Madrid face a familiar foe, Manchester City. In the first leg, we witnessed peak football as the two heavyweights put on a spectacle that would end 3-3. Then after a 1-1 scoreline after 120 minutes in the second leg, Los Blancos prevailed on penalties. It didn't get any easier though, as Real would play Bayern in the semi-finals. Vinny Jr. drew first blood for Los Blancos in the 23rd minute. However, in the second half, Real were left stunned after conceding 2 goals in just 4 minutes. Thankfully for Madrid though, Min-jae Kim was having a disaster class and Vinny equalized on a penalty. In the second leg though, Madrid found themselves once again in danger after conceding a banger from Alphonso Davies. But then, in vintage Real Madrid fashion, they come back in the dying minutes through 2 Joselu goals. Is it perhaps coincidence that in this era, we've had 2 mid-level strikers from Stoke City play in the Champions League for some of the best clubs in the world? Now, even a few minutes later though, we got vintage Real Madrid, in a different sense. They may never beat the allegation. But either way, Real Madrid advanced to the final after beating Bayern 4-3 on aggregate. Borussia Dortmund was drawn into the dreaded group of death with Newcastle, Milan, and PSG. Many people believed BVB was the weakest link, and those biases seemed to be confirmed after Dortmund had a pretty underwhelming start. They began their campaign with a 2-0 loss to PSG, and then could only muster up a draw with Milan. But then, they started to catch a little fire. Dortmund beat Newcastle away, and then they did it again at home a couple weeks later. They then smashed Milan 3-1 in Italy to earn a 3rd straight win. Then to cap off the group campaign, they drew with PSG and surprised everyone by winning the group. Into the knockouts, Dortmund drew PSV and then drew with them in the first leg. Then in the second leg in Dortmund, BVB tidied up and won 2-0 to advance to the quarters. But things didn't start out great here for the black and yellow as they lost 2-1 to Atleti. However, in the return fixture, BVB rallied back with 2 early goals to take the lead in the tie. But then they conceded 2 themselves and were now 4-3 down on aggregate. Nevertheless, Dortmund responded with another 2 goals in the 71st and 74th minute to win the tie 5-4 on aggregate. Finally, in the semis against PSG, thanks to some absolute masterclasses from Mats Hummels, Dortmund won 2-0 on aggregate to advance to the final. Now, if you want a more in-depth look at that game in PSG's perspective, here's this video. Now, with that out of the way, let's meet our finalists. Borussia Dortmund have now made 3 Champions League finals. They won one back in 1996-97 and then lost another in 2012-13 versus Bayern Munich at Wembley. Now, they return to Wembley hoping to redeem themselves. But considering their opponents, it's going to be pretty tough. But what helps is that Dortmund's defense has been excellent throughout this entire tournament. Goalkeeper Gregor Kobel in particular has been by far the best keeper in the tournament this season. Based on post-shot XG minus goals allowed, he ranks first, overwhelmingly. And in front of him is a very formidable backline. Mats Hummels and Nico Schlotterbeck have proven to be an exceptional center-back partnership. And the case of Mats Hummels is wild to me, because not too long ago, everyone considered him washed. But throughout this season, he's just turned back the clock. In fact, his contributions are why Dortmund are in this final. Going back to Nico Schlotterbeck though, he's been an excellent ball-playing defender. In fact, we just saw how good his passing was in the semis through that assist to Niklas Füllkrug. The fullbacks of Ian Maatsen and Julian Ryerson have also been really solid too, and it's honestly pretty wild how little praise Ryerson has gotten because he's the perfect balance between attack and defense. In the midfield, you got somewhat of a yin and yang. Emre Can, the tough, physical, and energetic captain, will do your dirty work. He's not the best defensive midfielder, but his presence as a leader is invaluable to this team. Playing alongside him, Marcel Sabitzer, a more attack-minded midfielder. How he plays kind of reminds me a lot of İlkay Gündoğan. He'll sometimes act as a shadow striker and make late runs into the box, box to have a shot on goal. Sabitzer is also very versatile, so he'll be just as important on the other side of the ball. Playing above them in that creative number 10 role will be Julian Brandt. 2 goals and 2 assists doesn't really show the full picture of just how effective he's been, because in over 700 minutes, Brandt has averaged over 5 shot creating actions per 90. Also, remember when Jadon Sancho was banished by Ten Hag and playing pro clubs versus JCC on a stream that I donated on? Well, now he's in the Champions League final. I wouldn't say he's entirely back, but he has put in some good performances here and there. One of those performances being the exceptional one in the first leg of the semis versus PSG, where he had 13 dribbles completed and over 100 touches. I think it's fair to give Karim Adeyemi a shout as well. He's still very raw, but his explosiveness can catch anyone off guard. Also, he and Ian Maatsen do a really good job in defense together. Finally, up top, you got Niklas Füllkrug. Füllkrug has 3 goals and 3 assists in the tournament so far. He's a fantastic poacher, and his aerial dominance will be huge. In terms of other goal scorers off the bench, Dortmund can call upon the likes of Sebastian Haller, Felix Nemeka, and even Marco Reus. Then there's Real Madrid, who just had to ruin the Der Klassiker rematch we could have gotten. They are 14-time winners of this tournament, and they have only ever lost in the final 3 times. Just like Dortmund, Real has a fantastic keeper in Andre Lunin. He's been crucial against the likes of Bayern and Manchester City, and he could not ask for a more ideal backline for this final. Dani Carvajal, Antonio Rudiger, Nacho Fernandez, and Ferland Mendy. 3 of those 4 players mentioned already have Champions League final experience, and Antonio Rudiger should be given a ton of credit for this season. The man has seen 2 of his compatriots be shot down by the injury sniper, and he's still done an amazing job keeping things nice and tidy. In the midfield, it's like you have the best of both worlds from the last 2 generations. Toni Kroos is still elite even at the age of 34. He is a ridiculously good passing outlet with range that is out of this world, and over 700 minutes, he averaged over 5 shot creating actions per 90. Luka Modric isn't starting as much as he used to, but he can still be invaluable as a super sub. In a little over 400 minutes, Modric had 7 shot creating actions per 90. And if there's anyone better at pulling the strings for a midfield, it's him. Then you got the youngins. Federico Valverde is an energetic all-around midfielder with all different types of weapons at his disposal. Not to mention, the guy scores bangers left and right. Aurelio Tchouameni has done a really good job coming back from injury. His role is the energetic destroyer for Real Madrid as a defensive midfielder, and he's been fantastic. And finally, there's Jude Bellingham. One of the most talented players in the world, can do everything on both sides of the ball, and is one of the most intelligent midfielders of this era. Also, funnily enough, he's playing against the team he left last season. Then you got Real's insanely stacked attack. Vini Jr. has 5 goals and 4 assists in just 800 minutes. That is a goal contribution every game. And his Brazilian buddy, Rodrigo, has 5 goals and 2 assists in 900 minutes. Another avenue for goals could come from the ultimate wildcard, Joselu. He started just 2 games, but has 5 goals in less than 300 minutes. Now, other players that could help Real off the bench include Eduardo Camavinga for more stability in the midfield, or Brahim Diaz if you're looking for more fluidity and elusiveness. Right, so with that out of the way now, time for the prediction. Listen, as much as I, the entire football world, and probably the football gods want to see Marco Reus's loyalty be paid off, I don't know, man. I just can't see it. Like, all credit to Dortmund going all the way to the final, but Real Madrid is just a different monster, man. Dortmund have the better defense in terms of form right now, but Real 100% have the better midfield and attack. And I just don't know if Dortmund's defense can hold out for a whole 90 minutes or even 120 minutes if we get to that point. So I'm gonna say Real Madrid win their 15th Champions League with a scoreline of 2-0. But what do you guys think? Who's going to win the Champions League final? Could it be Real Madrid winning their 15th? Or will Marco Reus actually finally experience what happiness is? Let me know. Of course, a massive shout out to all our members, including Janos Barash, Anazir Makalankam, Alex Rod, Ulta, Billy Jack, Gwen Yule, Hysteria, Miguel Munoz, Return Fire, Rory Burns, Slider Kit, Snifrix, Taku Okafan, Tana Pimilia Celine Khan, The Cypriot 35, Tomicus, Victor, St. Terrence, Capri Sun Man, Kerbo, Kentra Agacha, Not Windows 95 Man, Chris Visconti, Dominic Griffin, Joe Paricio, Kyler Krebs, Lucien Von Croix, Mohammed Altanib, Nish, Patrick Barley, Rasher God 5, Raspberry Ale, Rowan Cookie, Sylvia Citrus, Subscribe to Tende Tim, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to join the new membership, fourth wall, whatever, there'll be a link down below, annotation up there. Jesus Christ. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, follow me on Instagram if you like, you can follow me on Twitch as well. Probably won't do a watch along for the final because I'm not feeling amazing right now, but I'll probably be doing a good amount of Euro watch along, so watch out for that. But until then, I'll see you guys.